Have any of you ever used the term "I feel so ADHD" or OCD right now? Be honest, I'm sure many of you have. Well, why do we do this? I mean, these terms ADHD and OCD mean so much more than somebody who's feeling hyperactive or fidgety or a neat freak at any given moment. And the media has done a great job at stereotyping these disorders so that we think of a person like this in terms of ADHD and a person like this in terms of OCD. Fortunately, this is not the only misconception of ADHD and OCD that I've heard. Let me tell you a few just so that you have an understanding of where I'm coming from. Number one, ADHD is not a real disorder. Well, according to the general definition, ADHD is a real diagnosable disorder, and people with it have genetic variations different from others. Number two, everybody has some ADHD. This is a common thought about ADHD, and it's probably why so many people don't think of it seriously. There's a difference between having a feeling of anxiety or depression at some type of moment during the day and actually having a diagnosable disorder for these symptoms and experiencing them daily. Number three, now you may have heard or said that OCD is all about cleanliness. Well, cleanliness is only one of the many compulsions of OCD, and this includes having trouble cooking. This includes repeating routines, checking and rechecking for things, and number four, OCD is a woman's disease. Now, you may have seen this in many TV shows and other forms of social media that express only a woman having OCD. Well, this is not true because, in fact, it affects men, women, and children of all different ethnicities. The other day I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and in this conversation, she stated that she felt ADHD. This drew me to this conclusion because, as I said earlier, ADHD is not a feeling of hyperactivity. It is an actual diagnosable disorder that many people deal with. And this includes growing up. Now, during elementary school, she was never considered one of the cool kids. In fact, she was often bullied, especially by the people she thought of as her friends. This is mainly because she was seen in class fidgeting, moving things, and having trouble focusing. Well, the kids made fun of her for one thing in particular. And this was the fact that she always was seen wearing gloves. And this was to help her with her irrational fear of bacteria and contamination. Entering the 4th grade, she had become completely outcast, and nobody would associate with her. Now, she hadn't recognized the bullying beforehand, so when the reality struck her that she had no friends, it took a deep toll on her emotional state. This was only worsened after passing of her cousin during that same time period. Now, entering high school was very difficult for her. Being that she had already struggled with emotional trauma before and having trouble making friends, it took a deep toll on her, and she became rather depressed. And she had a lot of trouble focusing during class, so it really affected on her grades, and she saw that they were slipping. Now, she hadn't recognized this before, and as she was sitting there, she would have images of seclusion and emotional trauma all throughout elementary school that would find their way into her train of thought. And she couldn't really understand why this was. But one of the differences between this was the fact that her cousin, the passing of her cousin, those images would somehow go into her mind too. But they were altered to seem as if she was the cause of her cousin's death, and in fact she was not. This was the beginning of her intrusive thoughts. Now, she hadn't realized the level of intensity of these intrusive thoughts until she was walking home one day. And as she walked home, she always passed a highway. But this time was different because as she continued walking down and would pass that highway, she would notice all the cars passing by. But she found herself drawn to this, and first thought that came to her mind was to jump. And this was very difficult for her because of the fact that beforehand she had never thought of herself as suicidal, but she didn't really know where this was coming from. Now, the more she stared, the harder the impulse to jump was. And the more she thought about it, the louder she heard that little voice in the back of her mind telling her to jump. Fortunately, she didn't jump, However, she did have an emotional breakdown on that highway. It took a nearby witness to notice this and actually call the ambulance. After months of rehabilitation and treatment, she was finally diagnosed with OCD intrusive and ADHD. The doctor prescribed her pills for this, and just to help her ease the anxiety disorders, along with some non-prescription ways to help with that as well. This included ways of accessing her hyperfocus, which is a symptom of ADHD that allows a patient to have a level of intense focus on something that they find particularly interesting. Counting and cleaning were also ways to ease her anxiety disorders as well, and to take her mind off of the intrusive thoughts when things got too much for her to bear. Approximately 11% of our population of children from 4 to 17 years of age are diagnosed with ADHD. About 2.3% of our population of adults from ages 18 to 54 are diagnosed with OCD or OCD intrusive. About 3.3 million people have it, and 30% of them are diagnosed with ADHD as well. Hope's story does not only speak for herself, but for many people that are struggling with OCD across the globe, OCD and ADHD across the globe. This includes many celebrities you may know of. Now, Justin Timberlake is known for his energetic appearance on stage whenever he's singing. But what many people don't know is the fact that he struggles with OCD and ADHD as well. He has said to ADHD magazine that he uses his hyperfocus to make some of his best music. And Adam Levine has become sort of role model for many children with ADHD across the globe as well, stating to owneradhd.com that I remember being a kid with ADHD. Truth is, I still have it. We need to stop the stereotyping that the media has created for us that allow us to think that it is okay to take these terms out of context. So before appearing ignorant and stating an offensive expression, think about what it is you're truly saying and who may be affected